Imagine finding out your husband has been secretly paying his ex-girlfriend's rent. Not once, not as a favor, every month for 2 years. And when he's finally caught, he said he was just trying to be a good person. I need you all to hold on to that sentence, because by the time this story is over, you are going to have some very specific thoughts about what exactly Daniel thinks a good person is. Our confessor, let's call her Maya, because the username looks like someone fell asleep on a keyboard. Maya had been married to Daniel for 4 years. And by her account, the marriage was good. Not perfect. Nobody's marriage is perfect unless one of them is lying to a therapist. But it was good. Daniel remembered birthdays, not just hers, her mother's, her sister's, the anniversary of the dog they got. He did the dishes without being asked. Not occasionally, consistently. The kind of consistency that after 4 years, you stop noticing because it's just become the texture of your life. He responded to messages within a reasonable amount of time, which, honestly, already puts him ahead of a concerning percentage of the adult population. He was the kind of husband who noticed when the coffee was running low and bought more before you had to ask. Who said you seemed tired instead of waiting to be told. Who made the kind of small invisible efforts that don't make a great story at parties but make an excellent life. Maya had built a life around that man. 4 years of it. Which is important because you need to understand what she thought she had before I tell you what she found. Daniel also had an ex-girlfriend named Victoria. Maya knew Victoria existed. Everybody has a past. People date, people break up, people move on. That's life. Victoria had been mentioned exactly 3 times in 4 years. Once, when Daniel was explaining a mutual friend they no longer saw, "Oh, we know each other through Victoria." The way he named a street corner purely geographic. Once, when a photo came up while they were going through old pictures on a laptop together, Daniel had said her name, moved on quickly, and Maya didn't ask because there was nothing in his voice that suggested she should. And once again, in a late-night conversation about exes, the kind every couple has eventually, that ended the way those conversations always end, with both people performing a level of maturity about the past that may or may not have been entirely genuine. 3 mentions in 4 years. Victoria was, as far as Maya understood, a chapter that had been fully closed. What Maya did not know was that Victoria apparently came with a monthly payment plan. One Saturday afternoon, Maya was reviewing household finances. Not because she suspected anything. Not because something felt wrong. It was because it's adulthood is mostly opening apps and quietly wondering where all your money went. So she goes through the joint account first. Everything looks right. Then she opens Daniel's individual accounts. They had agreed earlier on in the marriage to keep full access to each other's accounts. Full transparency. The kind of things you decide when you're optimistic and in love and you don't understand what transparency actually requires of you. She had never had a reason to look closely before. That Saturday, she looked closely and she saw it. A recurring transfer. $800 every month to an account she doesn't recognize. At first, she assumed it's something boring. Insurance, a loan repayment she had forgotten about. She checks the label, nothing helpful. So she checks the history. 1 transfer. 2. She scrolls. 5, 8, 12. She keeps scrolling. 24 transfers. 24 months. $800 every single month without a single gap. Without a single month where the transfer didn't go through quietly, on schedule, like clockwork. She does the maths. $19,200. Nearly 20 grand gone. Now, I respect Maya because my first instinct would have been to walk into whatever room my husband was in and hold up the bank statement like Exhibit A in a courtroom drama. But Maya stayed calm. Puts the phone down, makes a cup of tea and waits until evening. Which is either extraordinary composure or the specific kind of stillness that arises when something is so wrong your body temporarily stops knowing how to react. Possibly both. That evening, she asked Danny about it casually. The way people do when they are trying very hard not to sound like they're about to launch an investigation. Hey honey, what's this transfer? Daniel phrases. And listen, not all silence are equal. Some silence mean I don't remember. Some mean let me think. And some mean, oh no, that was a tough guy. Finally, he says, it's someone I used to know. Now that's interesting. Because that's not actually an answer. That's a movie trailer for an answer. Maya asks, who? Danny says, Victoria. And just like that, the room changes. Victoria, the ex, the woman Maya had had about exactly 3 times in 4 years. The woman who was supposed to belong entirely to a chapter that had already been closed. Maya asks why he's been sending her money. Daniel explained that Victoria was struggling, rent was difficult, she needed help, he couldn't just let her suffer. Which sounds at first almost noble. Helping people is good. Helping someone you used to care about is human. And then you remember $800 every month for 2 years without a single conversation with the person you are married to. The nobility starts to have a problem. Maya asks the obvious question. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel sighs and then delivers one of the most astonishing explanations I have encountered in a very long time. He said, I didn't want to make it weird. Sir? You secretly paid your ex-girlfriend's rent for 24 consecutive months. From an account inside your marriage, using money your wife trusted you enough not to audit. The weirdness is not located in the conversation. The weirdness took up precedent in the month 1, when you made the first transfer and decided the woman you married didn't need to know about it. That's like setting your kitchen on fire and then refusing to open the window because you don't want it to get smoky. The smoke, Daniel, the smoke is already there. If you already saw the problem before I named it, drop it in the comments. I want to know who clocked the make it weird line before I even said anything. But Maya isn't done asking questions. Because once someone tells you they've been secretly funding an ex, your curiosity becomes very motivated. She asks, how much contact do you still have with her? Daniel says, not much. Another answer that contains no useful information whatsoever. Maya asks to see the messages. Daniel hesitates. Which again is not the body language of someone with nothing to hide. When Maya reads the message, she didn't find an affair. No flirting, no declarations, no plans. We should have been reassuring, except somehow it wasn't. Because what the messages showed her was something harder to name. Comfort, familiarity, history. Victoria thanking Daniel, Daniel reassuring Victoria, conversations about bad weeks, job stress, difficult season, the kind of emotional intimacy that may not be romantic anymore, but is absolutely non-existent. Maya realizes she isn't just looking at rent payments. She's looking at a relationship she didn't know was still running. A whole second conversation happening quietly in the margins of her marriage. Then she asks the question that changes everything. Does Victoria know you are married? Daniel says yes. I need everyone to stay with that for a full moment. Because now, we are not talking about a woman unknowingly accepting help from an old boyfriend. Victoria knew every payment arrived with full context attached. Every thank you, every conversation about hard weeks and difficult season. All of it happened with the knowledge that the person at the other end had a wife who didn't know this arrangement existed. Maya was the only person in this situation who didn't know she was a part of it. The only one operating without the full picture. People were not calm about this. One wrestler that kept getting shared said, he didn't forget to tell you, he chose not to, every single month for 2 years. That's not an oversight. That's a relationship he kept running quietly alongside yours. Another said, this wasn't just financial help. This was a private arrangement. One funded by a marriage and healing from the person actually in that marriage. A lot of people zeroed in on the same detail Maya did. It was never really about the money. It was about finding out that there was a whole second conversation happening in his life that she had never been invited to. A week later, Maya came back with an update. Not the one people were waiting for. Not bags packed, papers filed, dramatic exit. She and Daniel had started couples therapy. She's not leaving. She's not certain about anything. She's just trying to understand what happened. Trying to figure out if there's something underneath the deception worth saving, or whether the deception is what's underneath. She said therapy is harder than she expected. Not because of what's being said, because of what keeps coming up that she didn't know needed to be said. And the more she sits with it, the less the money bothers her. Not because $19,000 isn't significant. It absolutely is, but it's been replaced by something that bothers her more. The fact that every month Danny made 2 decisions. Send the money, don't tell Maya. And he successfully completed both tasks 24 times in a row. That's not forgetting. That's the routine. Here's my read. I don't think Daniel is some mastermind. I don't think he woke up every morning plotting deception. I think he made one decision he knew would be uncomfortable to explain. Then he delayed explaining it. Then he delayed it again, and eventually he became more committed to avoiding the conversation than telling the truth. Because that's the thing about secrets. Most of them don't start with a lie. They start with, I will explain this later. And later quietly turns into 2 years. Maya says she still doesn't know whether Danny has feelings for Victoria. And truthfully, I don't think that's the question haunting her anymore. I think the question is much simpler. If someone can hide something this significant for 2 years, managing it, sustaining it, looking at you every morning across the same table, what else don't you know? And how would you ever be sure? That's not a question I can answer for her. That's the question she has to decide whether she can live inside. Tell me where you land on this one, because I've been turning it over for days and I still haven't found the bottom of it. If this one starts something specific, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next confession. Bye.